DC Comics has been building one connected universe for almost an entire century, and in that time, its heroes have died, entire worlds have vanished, and reality itself has been rewritten more times than most fans could ever keep track of. So, today, I'm breaking down every major event in DC Comics. What caused it, who fought in it, how it ended, and the massive changes these stories made that are still affecting the DC Universe today. And with that settled, we have to go back to 1961, when one Flash ran so fast that he discovered the hero from his favorite childhood comics was real, Flash of Two Worlds. Before DC had a multiverse, it had a continuity problem. The company's earliest heroes belonged to what fans now call the Golden Age. Jay Garrick was the Flash. Alan Scott was Green Lantern. The Justice Society had fought through the 1940s, and then superhero comics lost popularity. When DC revived the Flash in 1956, it gave the name to Barry Allen, redesigned the costume, and started again. Barry even read old Jay Garrick comics inside his own stories. That seemed like a cute explanation for why two completely different men shared one name. Then, the Flash number 123 changed everything. Barry is performing at a charity event when he vibrates at super speed and disappears. He lands in Keystone City, except this is the Keystone Jay Garrick protected years earlier. Barry finds Jay in the phone book, visits his home, and tells him something deeply strange. Where Barry comes from, Jay's life was published as comic books. Jay has retired, married Joan, and gone gray at the temples. The arrival of another Flash pulls him back into action. The two speedsters fight three Golden Age villains, the Thinker, the Fiddler, and the Shade, who have come out of retirement for one last crime spree. The explanation is simple enough to say and enormous once you think about it. Barry and Jay live on separate Earths occupying the same space while vibrating at different frequencies. Gardner Fox, the writer behind both eras of The Flash, has effectively turned DC's discarded publishing history into a physical place, and fans immediately understood the possibilities. Every old story still existed somewhere else. Barry calls his home Earth 1 and Jay's World Earth 2. The labels sound backwards because Earth 2 contains the heroes published first, but Earth 1 was the main world from Barry's perspective. That naming choice will confuse readers for the next 24 years. Honestly, it still catches people now. This one issue gives DC a solution for contradictory versions of its characters, brings the Justice Society back into active comics, and creates the basic mechanism behind almost every crisis that follows. Different Earths, different histories, one hero finding a way across. The multiverse began with two men sitting in Jay Garrick's living room, comparing notes about being the Flash. Crisis on multiple Earths. 2 years later, the Flashes bring their teams with them. Justice League of America numbers 21 and 22 contain the first full meeting between the Justice League of Earth 1 and the Justice Society of Earth 2. The story is actually called Crisis on Earth 1 and Crisis on Earth 2, and it establishes a tradition DC would repeat almost every year. Villains from both worlds discover the dimensional gap before the heroes can properly secure it. The crime champions divide themselves across the two Earths, thinking each Justice team will be unfamiliar with enemies from the other world. It is a decent plan. It also leads to Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, both Flashes, both Green Lanterns, and a room full of Golden Age legends comparing strategies. Those crossovers keep expanding. Earth 3 introduces the Crime Syndicate, evil reflections of the Justice League on a world where history runs backwards in spirit. Ultraman gains power from Kryptonite. Owlman is a criminal Batman. Superwoman, Power Ring, and Johnny Quick complete the original group. The only major hero there is Alexander Luthor. Earth X is a world where Nazi Germany won the Second World War and the freedom fighters continue resisting decades later. Earth S holds the heroes DC acquired from Fawcett, including Captain Marvel and the Marvel family. Earth 4 eventually houses characters from Charlton Comics such as Blue Beetle, Captain Atom, and The Question. More Earths appear for one-off stories, alternate futures, comedy characters, and ideas that nobody expected to explain again. For readers, this was fun. The annual team-ups felt like opening the biggest toy box DC owned. An older Superman could meet the younger version. The Justice Society could age, marry, and have children while the Justice League stayed close to its familiar status quo. Power Girl, Huntress, and Infinity Incorporated grew naturally from that older generation. The problem arrived slowly. A new reader could encounter two Supermen, several Green Lanterns, a Captain Marvel who had nothing to do with Marvel Comics, and entire worlds built around companies DC had purchased. Editors worried that the freedom had become a barrier. By the early 1980s, DC decided to clean it up. Every annual crisis had made the multiverse larger. The next one was designed to end it, Crisis on Infinite Earths. In 1985, DC celebrated its 50th anniversary by destroying almost everything. The Monitor had appeared quietly across DC titles for years, usually shown as a mysterious figure supplying technology to villains. Marv Wolfman and George Perez finally reveal that he is preparing for a war against his antimatter counterpart, the Anti-Monitor. Both beings were created billions of years earlier when the scientist Krona tried to witness the beginning of existence. That forbidden experiment produced the positive matter multiverse and an antimatter universe centered on Quard. The Anti-Monitor wakes and begins consuming realities with a white antimatter wave. Every universe erased makes him stronger. Entire Earths disappear while their populations look up and see nothing coming toward them. Just a blank wall eating the sky. The Monitor recruits heroes and villains from across time through Harbinger, a young woman named Lila Michaels, whom he saved as a child. He places tuning towers throughout history to preserve the surviving worlds. The Anti-Monitor corrupts one of Harbinger's duplicates and forces her to kill the Monitor. He knows the attack is coming. His death releases the energy needed to protect the final Earths. That sacrifice only buys time. Pariah, a scientist cursed to witness each universe's destruction after his own experiment awakened the Anti-Monitor, is dragged from dying world to dying world. Alexander Luthor Jr. survives the destruction of Earth-3 as an infant and rapidly ages, carrying both matter and antimatter inside his body. Superboy Prime arrives from Earth Prime, a world presented as something close to our own. Heroes from forgotten companies stand beside DC's central icons because there will be no separate shelves left if they fail. Then Supergirl dies. The Anti-Monitor has Superman trapped and is beating him to death. Kara attacks with everything she has, cracks the Anti-Monitor's armor and nearly finishes him. She turns away for 1 second after ordering Dr. Light to get Superman clear. The Anti-Monitor fires. Superman catches Kara's body, and George Perez gives the event its most famous image. Barry Allen's death comes soon after. The Anti-Monitor captures him because Barry can cross dimensions and move through time. Barry escapes, creates a vortex around the antimatter cannon, and runs until his body burns away. He saves the remaining worlds, while moving through fragments of his own life. Barry stays gone for more than 20 years, and Wally West carries the Flash name for an entire generation. The surviving heroes travel to the dawn of time, where the Anti-Monitor plans to stop the multiverse from ever forming. The Spectre, empowered by Earth's sorcerers, confronts him at the moment of creation. Reality convulses. 5 surviving worlds merge into one universe with one shared history. Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 4, Earth S, and Earth X are gone as separate places. Their characters now remember a single Earth. Superman is the only adult Kryptonian survivor in the revised history, removing Supergirl from existence. The Justice Society fought before the Justice League. Captain Marvel has always lived on the same planet as Superman. Nobody recalls the multiverse except a tiny group sheltered outside the rewrite and the Psycho Pirate, who sits in an asylum remembering worlds that everyone else has forgotten. The final Anti-Monitor battle is messy and huge. Darkseid attacks through Alexander Luthor. Superman of Earth 2 delivers the last blows. Alexander, Superboy Prime, Earth 2 Superman, and Lois Lane retreat into a paradise dimension, leaving the new Earth behind. DC achieved the clean universe it wanted. Sort of. Some titles rebooted completely. Superman received a new origin. Wonder Woman restarted. Batman's history was revised, but largely continued. Green Lantern carried on with less interruption. Characters who remembered old events now had biographies that could not fit neatly together. Hawkman's continuity became a crime scene. Donna Troy's origin took the first of several direct hits. Crisis solved the problem of infinite Earths by creating a new problem. One Earth containing histories that had never been written to coexist. Still, the impact is impossible to overstate. Supergirl stayed dead for years. Barry stayed dead for decades. Wally became the Flash. The Justice Society became the past of the Justice League. And from this point forward, DC had a dangerous new option whenever continuity became difficult. It could break reality again. Legends. The new DC universe needed to learn whether it still trusted superheroes. Darkseid chooses a quieter invasion. He sends Glorious Godfrey to Earth under the identity G. Gordon Godfrey, a charismatic public figure who blames masked heroes for the destruction around them. Godfrey uses the anti-life equation through his voice, turning fear and frustration into a mass movement. President Ronald Reagan issues an order banning superhero activity. Several heroes obey. Others keep working. Captain Marvel is manipulated into believing he caused the death of the villain Macroman and abandons his identity in shame. Batman responds to the ban about as well as you would expect Batman to respond to any order telling him to stay home. The event works because Darkseid barely needs an army. He gives people permission to resent the heroes they once cheered. Crowds attack them. Newspapers turn. Every rescue becomes evidence that superpowered people believe themselves above ordinary law. And then, a group of children refuses to follow the adults. When Godfrey's followers threaten the heroes, children step between them. The moment breaks his control because it exposes the ugliness of the movement in front of everyone. Godfrey attacks one of the children, and his own supporters finally see him clearly. Legends also launches pieces of DC that become far more important than the event itself. Amanda Waller's Suicide Squad makes its modern debut, sending imprisoned villains on missions the government can deny. The new Justice League forms soon afterward, leading into the Justice League International era. Wonder Woman enters the post-crisis public world during the crossover. No universes die here. The threat is public belief, which is why later events keep borrowing from it. Amanda Waller certainly took notes. Millennium. The Manhunters were the Guardians' first attempt at creating an intergalactic police force. They rebelled. The Guardians replaced them with the Green Lantern Corps, and the Machines spent ages planning revenge. In Millennium, they activate sleeper agents hidden inside the private lives of Earth's heroes. That is the hook. A friend, relative, or trusted colleague in almost every major book suddenly reveals loyalty to the Manhunters. Lana Lang is compromised. Rocket Red is exposed as a machine. Characters who had existed for years are turned into infiltrators because the crossover needs betrayal inside every corner of the line. The Guardians and the Zamarons announce that they are leaving this plane of existence. Before going, they select 10 humans to become the new Guardians, representatives of the next stage in evolution. The heroes protect these chosen people while the Manhunters attack. The slogan was excellent: "No man escapes the Manhunters." The execution was uneven. Some tie-ins handle the paranoia well. Others reveal a supporting character as a secret robot and leave the regular title to clean up the damage. The new Guardians series that follows becomes infamous for choices nobody needs explained in detail during dinner. Millennium matters because it proves the post-crisis DC line could coordinate a company-wide story every year. It also shows the risk immediately. When every ongoing book has to participate, some characters become plot devices for an event they did not need. DC would get much better at the machinery. First, it had to survive an actual alien invasion. The Dominators study Earth and reach a worrying conclusion. Humans possess a metagene capable of producing unpredictable superpowers under extreme stress. Left alone, Earth could eventually create an army of beings the rest of the galaxy cannot control. So the Dominators build an alien alliance. The Khunds, Thanagarians, Durlans, Gildishpan, warlords of Okara, and several other species join the attack for their own reasons. Some hate humans. Some fear them. Some simply enjoy conquest. They establish a blockade and demand the surrender of Earth's metahumans. The scale feels properly global. Superman leads resistance off-world. The Justice League fights across continents. The Suicide Squad is sent behind enemy lines. Captain Atom deals with the military response. Heroes who usually protect one city are suddenly part of a planetary war. The Alliance begins to fracture because its members do not trust one another, and Earth's heroes exploit that. The invasion appears beaten. Then one Dominator decides to test his theory with the Gene Bomb. The bomb floods Earth with energy that attacks the metagene. Existing heroes collapse. Ordinary people with dormant abilities suddenly transform. Some gain useful powers. Others are left horribly altered. The event turns DC's loose approach to superhuman origins into a named biological mechanism. Several new characters emerge from the aftermath, and the idea of the metagene becomes standard vocabulary across comics, animation, and television. It gives scientists and government agencies a reason to classify people who gained powers from completely unrelated accidents. The Dominators came to stop Earth's superhuman population from expanding. Their final weapon helped expand it: Cosmic Odyssey. Darkseid asks the heroes for help. That sentence alone should make everyone nervous. An aspect of the anti-life equation has become a conscious force capable of annihilating the universe. 4 fragments travel toward 4 planets. If the heroes fail to stop even one, the chain reaction could destroy the Milky Way. Darkseid divides the response into pairs. Superman works with Orion. Batman goes with Forager. Starfire joins Lightray. Martian Manhunter is assigned to John Stewart. Each team receives a different device and a world to save. John makes the fatal mistake. He believes his Green Lantern ring can handle the threat on Xanshi without help. John warns him. John sends him away. Then he discovers the bomb's core is yellow, the one color his ring cannot affect at this point in Green Lantern history. Xanshi explodes. There is no last-second reversal. Billions die while John survives above the remains of the planet. His confidence becomes guilt that follows him for decades. Later stories revisit Xanshi, challenge parts of the original setup, and ask how much responsibility belongs to John, but the image sticks: a Green Lantern floating where a world used to be. Elsewhere, Batman dies briefly after refusing to abandon his mission, and Forager gives his life to save him. Batman later strikes Orion for dismissing Forager as an expendable bug. It is one of those small scenes fans remember more clearly than half the cosmic machinery around it. The team stop the remaining devices. Darkseid attempts to control the anti-life entity and fails, because of course he does. The universe survives with one enormous absence inside it. Cosmic Odyssey leaves the timeline intact and gives John Stewart a failure he cannot outrun, rebuild, or explain away with another universe. Armageddon, 2001. In the year 2001, a former superhero called Monarch rules Earth as a dictator. Matthew Ryder rebels against him, gains time travel abilities, and becomes Waverider. He travels back to 1991 to discover which hero will eventually become Monarch. That mystery drives the event. Waverider touches different heroes and sees possible futures. Superman becomes president. Batman grows old. Captain Atom, Hawk, Flash, and other candidates receive annual issues exploring where their lives might lead. The planned answer was reportedly Captain Atom. Then the ending leaked. DC changed it. Monarch is revealed as Hank Hall, the Hero Hawk. Hank murders Dove, removes Monarch's armor from the man he has apparently killed, then puts it on and completes the future Waverider came to prevent. The reveal caused immediate problems. Hawk's established history did not support the turn, and the clues built around another suspect no longer landed properly. Later stories transform Hank into Extant, give him time manipulation powers, and place him at the center of Zero Hour. Years after that, DC explains his corruption through outside influence and restores him as Hawk. Armageddon 2001 is remembered as much for the publishing panic as the plot. A mystery event lives or dies on its answer. Changing the culprit protected the surprise and broke the setup holding it together. And poor Hank Hall spent years paying for the leak. Eclipso: The Darkness Within. Small black diamonds appear across the DC universe. Anyone holding a shard can summon Eclipso during a moment of anger. A simple phrase and a burst of rage let the ancient spirit take control, marked by a blue-black crescent spreading across the victim's face. Eclipso had once been presented as a conventional villain trapped inside scientist Bruce Gordon. The Darkness Within rebuilds him as something older, a former spirit of vengeance cast out and replaced by the Spectre. He has spent centuries hiding pieces of his prison across Earth. The event runs mainly through DC's 1992 annuals, allowing Eclipso to possess heroes one title at a time. That format suits him. He does not need to overpower somebody from outside. He waits for a grievance, humiliation, or flash of fury and enters through it. The infected characters gather on the moon, where Eclipso establishes a base and draws more people under his control. Bruce Gordon and his wife Mona lead the effort to understand the stones. Heroes including Starman and Largond become involved as Eclipso's reach grows. The final confrontation traps Eclipso again, but the event permanently changes his scale. Later stories place him against the Spectre, the Shadow Pact, and some of DC's strongest magical beings. The Black Diamond becomes a warning all by itself. The Darkness Within belongs to a period when DC used annuals for summer crossovers. Readers could follow the central conflict while each regular series explored what possession meant for its own cast. Some tie-ins are essential. Some are a hero getting angry near jewelry. That uneven model leads directly into Bloodlines, where DC uses its annuals to create an entire generation of new characters at once. War of the Gods. For Wonder Woman's 50th anniversary, George Perez built a war involving nearly every pantheon in the DC universe. Circe manipulates the gods into turning against one another. Greek, Roman, Egyptian, African, and Norse powers collide while their human champions are dragged into the conflict. The Amazons are threatened. Themyscira becomes a target, and Wonder Woman has to navigate divine grudges that began long before any modern hero was born. Captain Marvel is pulled in through the Roman and Greek identities behind his powers. Hawkman, Hawkwoman, Dr. Fate, and the Suicide Squad become involved. Hermes dies. Gods possess mortals. Every tie-in arrives carrying another mythology into an already crowded room. The central emotional conflict comes from Diana and Circe. Circe has spent years attacking the Amazons and questioning everything Diana represents. The event gives Perez a massive stage for the end of his Wonder Woman run. It should feel definitive. Publication problems make it harder to read that way. Tie-ins were not always clearly marked. Scheduling weakened the connections. Perez's departure from DC added tension behind the scenes. Even fans who love his Wonder Woman often treat War of the Gods as a complicated finale, far removed from the clean victory lap it deserved. The gods eventually recognize Circe's manipulation, and Diana defeats her. The pantheons return to their separate domains. Wonder Woman survives the anniversary with her mythology larger and the crossover structure noticeably strained. Then DC stopped threatening the universe for a moment and focused on one fight in Metropolis. The death of Superman. Doomsday begins by punching his way out of a containment suit buried underground. No speech, no grand plan, no personal hatred of Superman. He walks forward and destroys whatever happens to be in front of him. The Justice League responds first. This is the early 1990s lineup, including Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, Fire, Ice, Bloodwind, Maxima, and Guy Gardner. Doomsday tears through them. Booster is the one who gives the creature its name after seeing the damage and realizing it feels like the arrival of Doomsday itself. Superman joins the fight and tries repeatedly to move it away from civilians. That becomes the awful rhythm of the story. Every time Clark thinks he has stopped the creature, Doomsday stands up. Every mile takes them closer to Metropolis. The final issue, Superman number 75, reduces its panel count as the battle intensifies. 4 panels per page, then 3, then 2. Finally, full-page impacts. Superman and Doomsday strike each other one last time outside the Daily Planet. Both fall. Lois reaches Clark while the city watches. He dies in her arms. The image of his torn cape hanging from a wooden pole became one of the most recognizable comic covers ever printed. News outlets reported the death as though an actual public figure had died. People who had not bought a Superman comic in years lined up for the black-bagged issue. Inside the story, the funeral is enormous. Heroes carry the coffin. The Kents have to grieve privately because the world cannot know Clark Kent was Superman. Lois has lost the man she loves and cannot publicly explain the full shape of that loss. Metropolis fills with memorials, opportunists, and people realizing how often they assumed Superman would be there. Lex Luthor is living inside a younger cloned body and pretending to be his own Australian son at the time, because Superman comics in the early 1990s were having a very specific kind of fun. Even Lex understands that the balance of the city has changed. The death itself lasts months, long enough for the supporting cast to live inside the absence. Superman's return was always likely. Readers knew that. The characters live through every funeral as though it is permanent, and when 4 replacements appear, none of them brings Clark back in the way people expect. Reign of the Supermen. 4 figures claim Superman's space after his death. The first is Superboy, a teenage clone grown by Project Cadmus. He hates being called Superboy and insists he is Superman while wearing a leather jacket and sunglasses that could only have come from 1993. The second is John Henry Irons. Superman once saved his life and told him to make it count. John builds powered armor, carries a hammer, and takes the name Steel. He never claims to be Clark. That already tells you which replacement has the healthiest relationship with the symbol. The Eradicator appears as the last son of Krypton, an emotionless and increasingly violent protector built from Kryptonian technology. He has Clark's appearance and some of his memories, but he treats mercy like a design flaw. The final figure is a cyborg who appears to possess Superman's body and memories. He seems the most convincing. He is also Hank Henshaw, a former astronaut who blames Superman for the destruction of his human life. Henshaw allies with Mongul and targets Coast City. They destroy it. Millions of people vanish in a blast that leaves a giant crater. In its place, Mongul begins building Engine City as part of a plan to transform Earth into a new war world. Henshaw frames the Eradicator and presents himself as the Superman who failed to arrive in time. Then the real Clark returns, weakened and wearing a black recovery suit. Kryptonian technology inside the fortress has restored his body, although the exact line between death, suspended animation, and resurrection has been argued ever since. Clark has no powers at first. He still goes to Engine City. Superboy, Steel, the Eradicator, and Supergirl join him. Green Lantern Hal Jordan returns to find Coast City gone. During the final battle, the Eradicator shields Superman from kryptonite energy, converting it into power and restoring Clark's abilities. Henshaw is defeated. Mongul loses. Engine City falls. Clark returns to Lois, grows out the famous mullet, and resumes being Superman. Steel and Superboy remain heroes. The Eradicator continues in several forms. Cyborg Superman becomes a permanent enemy, and Hal Jordan stands inside the crater where his home used to be. That leads directly to one of DC's most controversial character collapses: Bloodlines. Alien parasites arrive on Earth and begin feeding on human spinal fluid. The creatures disguise themselves as humans, seduce or isolate victims, and expose a feeding mouth hidden along the head. Most victims die. A small number survive with their metagene activated, gaining unpredictable abilities. Those survivors are called the New Bloods. Each 1993 annual introduces another potential hero. Gunfire can transform matter into explosive energy. Anima channels a dangerous spiritual force. Argus creates shadow duplicates. Loose cannon changes color and strength as his anger rises. There are many others, because DC was clearly hoping several would become the next major breakout. The most successful one is Tommy Monahan. After being bitten, Tommy gains telepathy and X-ray vision. He chooses to become a contract killer who specializes in superhuman targets. Garth Ennis and John McCrea develop him in Hitman, a series that outlives nearly every other New Blood and becomes far better than the crossover that introduced him. The parasites eventually combine into a huge being called the Taker. Established heroes in the New Bloods fight it during Bloodbath, the event's finale. The invasion ends, and DC is left with a large collection of characters competing for reader attention. Most disappear, a few return briefly. Hitman gets 60 issues, annuals, and one of the strangest Superman friendships in DC history. Bloodlines has a reputation for excessive 1990s design, forced debuts, and the belief that giving somebody a jacket plus an energy power automatically creates a franchise. Fair criticism. It also demonstrates how events can be used as launchpads. A crossover does not need every new idea to work. Sometimes one foul-mouthed assassin from Gotham is enough. Emerald Twilight. Hal Jordan returns to the remains of Coast City and tries to rebuild it with his ring. For one moment, the city is there again. Streets, buildings, people Hal remembers. His father appears. The ring warns that the construction is draining too much power, but Hal refuses to let it go. The Guardians summon him to Oa and condemn the use of his ring for personal gain. They demand he surrender it. Hal's answer is to fly toward the central power battery and take enough energy to restore Coast City permanently. Every Green Lantern sent to stop him falls. Hal takes their rings and grows stronger as he moves through space. He defeats Kilowog and, apparently, kills him. On Oa, the Guardians release Sinestro, the enemy they secretly imprisoned inside the battery, believing Hal's former mentor may be the only person capable of stopping him. Hal snaps Sinestro's neck, enters the battery, absorbs its power, and emerges as Parallax. The Green Lantern Corps is gone. The Guardians sacrifice themselves, leaving Ganthet as the only survivor. Ganthet travels to Earth, finds artist Kyle Rayner outside a nightclub, and hands him the final ring with very little explanation. The speed of Hal's fall shocked readers. 3 issues take him from grieving hero to the man who dismantles the Corps. There is real tragedy in the idea, especially after Coast City, but the story gives Hal almost no room to resist. Years later, Green Lantern Rebirth reveals that Parallax is a fear entity that infected the central power battery and possessed Hal. That retcon restores Hal without erasing every choice, although fans still argue over how much responsibility remains. At the time, there is no safety net. Kyle becomes the only Green Lantern, Hal becomes a cosmic threat, and the next event gives Parallax a chance to remake history itself. 0 Hour. Time begins disappearing from both ends. The future is erased first. Then the damage moves backwards, while anomalies spread across the present. Different versions of Batman meet. The Justice Society confronts enemies from its past. Characters encounter possible futures and histories that no longer fit. The villain appears to be Extant, the identity taken by Hank Hall after Armageddon 2001. Extant can manipulate time, and he uses the crisis to attack the Justice Society. He removes the energy that kept several members young, instantly aging them. Dr. Midnight, Hourman, and the Atom die during the fight. The original Justice Society is pushed toward retirement. Then Parallax reveals himself. Hal has reached the end of time and plans to recreate the universe without its tragedies. Coast City would live. The people he failed would return. Every mistake could be corrected by placing Hal Jordan in charge of the reset. Waverider and the heroes fight him as reality collapses toward a blank page. Green Arrow faces Hal directly and fires an arrow into the chest of his former best friend. The young hero Damage absorbs the energy of the remaining heroes and triggers a new Big Bang. Time restarts. DC publishes a new official timeline and adjusts character histories. The Legion of Superheroes receives a full reboot. Hawkman's various lives are pushed together in an attempt to simplify them, which somehow makes Hawkman even harder to explain. Batman is established as an urban legend again. Several alternate futures are removed or reclassified. 0 Hour calls itself a crisis in time, but it is more repair job than total reinvention. Most books continue. The biggest changes hit characters already carrying continuity damage. Hal survives, badly wounded, and will return when Earth needs him. The universe always leaves one more job for a fallen hero. Underworld Unleashed. Neron, a demon lord of hell, makes an offer to the villains of Earth. Trade him a soul, and receive the power to finally defeat your enemy. Some know exactly what they are agreeing to. Others hear the word soul and assume the paperwork must contain a loophole. The Rogues are among the first victims. 5 of the Flash's enemies accept greater power and die during an attack that releases Neron into the world. Major Disaster gains the ability to cause larger catastrophes. Killer Moth becomes the monstrous Caraxes. Blockbuster receives increased intelligence. Blue Devil, desperate to revive a friend, becomes a genuine demon. Neron's actual target is Captain Marvel. Billy Batson possesses a soul so pure that corrupting it would give Neron an extraordinary prize. He tempts other heroes and manipulates events until Billy confronts him. The person who finally outplays Neron is the Trickster. James Jesse realizes Neron's deals depend on desire and wording. He needles the demon, survives through nerve, and helps create the opening Captain Marvel needs. Billy offers his soul, then attacks Neron with the magical lightning of Shazam. The purity Neron wanted becomes something he cannot safely contain. The villains keep many of their upgraded forms after the event, some for years. Underworld Unleashed also gives DC an easy explanation whenever a minor villain suddenly looks more dangerous. Neron offered a deal. It is a straightforward crossover built on one very DC idea. The devil can tempt almost anyone. He still should not underestimate a professional con artist in a bright costume. The final night. A Sun Eater reaches Earth's solar system and begins extinguishing the sun. The creature wraps around the sun and drains its energy. Daylight fades. Temperatures drop. Scientists calculate how little time remains before the planet freezes. Superman loses his powers as the sunlight disappears. That detail forces the event away from the easiest solution. He keeps helping anyway, working beside Lex Luthor, Brainiac 5, and Earth's scientific community while heroes control panic, move populations, and fight disasters caused by the cold. Pharaoh, a member of the Legion of Superheroes able to transform into metal, volunteers for the final plan. He will carry an explosive into the Sun Eater and die with it. Before he can, Parallax arrives. Hal takes his place. He absorbs the Sun Eater and releases his energy into the dying star, reigniting it. The sun returns. Hal is gone. For Green Lantern fans, the sacrifice mattered. Emerald Twilight had taken Hal through his fall at brutal speed. The final night allows him to choose one last act without asking anybody to forgive him first. He saves Earth because it needs saving. His funeral brings the heroes together, although Batman remains openly furious about what Hal did as Parallax. Kyle Rayner continues as Green Lantern. Hal will soon return in a form nobody expects, becoming the human host of the Spectre during Day of Judgment, Genesis. Across the universe, superpowers begin failing. Flash loses his speed. Green Lantern's ring shuts down. Other abilities become unstable or suddenly grow stronger. Ordinary people feel the effect as a wave of emptiness and depression, creating panic before anyone understands the cause. Highfather explains the God Wave. When the world of the old gods was destroyed, a wave of energy traveled through creation. Its first pass produced gods across the universe. After reaching the edge and returning, its weaker second pass created demigods, metahumans, and several of the power sources used by modern heroes. Now the God Wave is returning to its origin. If it completes the cycle uncontrolled, reality will be wiped away and replaced by a fifth world. Darkseid wants the wave for himself. He sends his forces to Earth and travels toward the Source Wall, planning to absorb enough creative energy to remake existence in his image. Ares has the same idea, which briefly forces Darkseid into the deeply unnatural position of cooperating with the heroes. The Justice League and New Gods move toward the Source, while heroes across the regular titles deal with failing powers and a global loss of hope. Psychics on Earth link minds across the universe, gathering enough shared belief to stabilize the Source. Metron redirects the God Wave and prevents the reset. Creation is restored with most changes removed. New Genesis and Apocalypse, which had been fused, separate again. Darkseid, Ares, and other cosmic beings are left trapped in the Source Wall for the moment. Genesis tries to explain nearly every superhuman ability through one cosmic origin. Magic, the Speed Force, divine power, and metahuman biology all become echoes of the same wave. Later comics mostly stop insisting on that connection. The event is rarely placed among DC's classics. The heroes spend much of it depressed or depowered, and its biggest revelation adds an answer few stories needed. Still, it matters as the first time the Source Wall itself becomes the center of a line-wide collapse. 20 years later, metal will break that wall open again, and the thing waiting behind it will make the God Wave look manageable. DC 1,000,000. In the 853rd century, Superman still matters. The Justice Legion A protects a future version of the solar system. Its Superman is descended from the original. Its Batman guards Pluto after being raised inside a prison world. Its Flash lives as pure speed. Its Hourman is an android carrying a portion of the Warlagog, an artifact capable of controlling space and time. They travel back to the 20th century with an invitation. Superman Prime, the original Clark Kent, is finally returning after spending thousands of years inside the sun. The future wants the Justice League present for the celebration. The teams exchange places. The modern League travels forward, while the Justice Legion remains in the present. That is when the plan turns. Vandal Savage and Solaris, a tyrant artificial sun, have prepared an attack across centuries. A technovirus infects heroes and machines. Solaris plans to fire a kryptonite weapon into the sun so it will kill Superman Prime when he emerges. The future is packed with huge ideas tossed out in a few panels. Mars has oceans. Every planet has its own heroic protector. Resurrection technology exists. Superman's descendants have powers that look almost divine. Batman's legacy survives in the darkest corner of the system. The original League defeats Solaris with help planted across time. The kryptonite projectile is replaced by a Green Lantern ring. When Superman Prime emerges, he is reunited with a recreated Lois Lane and shares power with his descendants. The event jumps forward more than 80,000 years and somehow stays attached to the familiar DC universe. It tells readers these heroes can change, die, and pass down their names while the central idea survives. It also gives us a golden Superman who has been sitting inside the sun since the 15th millennium. Comics are allowed to be ridiculous sometimes. This one earns it. Day of Judgment. Jim Corrigan has finally released the Spectre and gone to his reward. That leaves the divine spirit of vengeance without a human host. The fallen angel Asmodel takes advantage. With help from Etrigan, Asmodel bonds to the Spectre's power. Hell freezes over. The dead begin returning to Earth, and Neron attempts to use the chaos to take control of the infernal realm. The magical heroes split their efforts between containing spirits, entering heaven, and finding somebody who can pull the Spectre away from Asmodel. The candidates include Batman, Deadman, and other souls carrying enormous will or guilt. The Spectre needs a human conscience, though. Raw vengeance without one becomes indiscriminate. Hal Jordan accepts the role. He has died saving the sun and still carries the weight of Parallax. Bonding with the Spectre gives him a new path built around redemption instead of policing space. Hal defeats Asmodel and becomes the Spirit's host. That status lasts for several years. Hal tries to turn the Spectre from vengeance toward redemption, sometimes literally reconstructing lives he damaged. The tension never fully resolves because the Spectre was created to punish and Hal wants to repair. Eventually, Green Lantern Rebirth separates him from the entity and restores him to life. Day of Judgment remains the strange middle chapter. Hal Jordan, former Green Lantern and destroyer of the core, briefly becomes the Wrath of God. No Man's Land. An earthquake measuring 7.6 strikes Gotham City during Cataclysm. Bridges collapse. Buildings fall. Thousands die. Bruce Wayne asks the federal government for help and discovers that Gotham's reputation has finally become politically fatal. The United States abandons the city. Gotham is declared a no man's land. Bridges are destroyed, residents are ordered to evacuate, and anyone who stays loses federal protection. The city is cut into territories controlled by gangs, police officers, villains, and vigilantes. Currency becomes food, medicine, batteries, and ammunition. Batman is absent at first. Bruce has failed to stop the government's decision and disappears, leaving Oracle and the remaining allies to hold what they can. Commissioner Gordon feels abandoned. He forms the Blue Boys from the officers who stayed and marks their territory with the police shield. The structure lets Gotham become a map that changes hands. Penguin controls trade. Two-Face runs territory through fear and a warped legal system. Poison Ivy protects children inside Robinson Park, feeding them through her plants while bargaining with the rest of the city. Huntress briefly operates as Batgirl before Batman rejects her methods. Cassandra Cain takes the Batgirl identity and becomes one of the event's most important, lasting additions. When Bruce returns, he expects the symbol of Batman to restore order. Gordon wants an apology, not a speech. Their broken relationship takes real work to repair. Lex Luthor eventually arrives with the resources to rebuild Gotham. He presents himself as its savior while quietly trying to seize ownership of huge sections of the city. Bruce stops the land grab, but Lex still gains the public image he wanted. The Joker closes the event with a crime aimed directly at Gordon. He kidnaps infants and murders Sarah Essen Gordon after she saves them. Gordon shoots Joker in the knee, then chooses not to kill him. Joker complains that he may never walk again before remembering he has done the same thing to Barbara. Even he laughs at the connection. Gotham is reopened and rebuilt. The bridges return. The people who stayed cannot pretend the government did not leave them behind. No Man's Land lasts for a full year of Batman titles, and that space is why it works. Gotham does not become a wasteland for an afternoon. It develops borders, economies, loyalties, and scars. Our world's at war. Imperiex sees a flaw in the universe and plans to correct it by destroying existence, creating a new Big Bang and starting over. He sends probes ahead of his main force, each one powerful enough to challenge teams of heroes. Superman learns that entire worlds have already fallen. Earth becomes the center of a war involving the Justice League, the Superman family, President Lex Luthor, Darkseid, Brainiac 13, and nearly every cosmic power willing to avoid annihilation. The alliances are uncomfortable. Darkseid understands that Apocalypse will die with everything else. Lex uses the office of the President to coordinate Earth's response while still thinking several betrayals ahead. Brainiac 13 wants Imperiex's energy for himself. War spreads through space and reaches Earth with actual casualties. Hippolyta, serving as Wonder Woman, dies in battle. Sam Lane appears to sacrifice himself. Steel is badly injured. Aquaman and Atlantis vanish during the conflict, presumed destroyed. Kansas is hit, and Superman believes his father may be dead. The final plan uses Brainiac 13's Warworld technology. Superman pushes himself after plunging into the sun, gaining the power needed to move Warworld through a boom tube. Imperiex and Brainiac 13 are sent back to the beginning of time, where the force of the original Big Bang destroys them. Then comes the cost. The war has devastated nations and killed millions, yet several deaths and disappearances are reversed or softened soon afterward. Hippolyta eventually returns. Aquaman is found. The scale remains in dialogue more than in the shape of the line. Our Worlds at War looks like a modern event before DC had fully settled on the format. It has a central spine, dozens of tie-ins, huge deaths, temporary costume changes, and a villain whose plan is essentially continuity rebooting from inside the story. That last idea keeps coming back. DC's villains have started thinking like editors. Joker's last laugh. The Joker is imprisoned inside the Slab, a maximum security facility built for supervillains. When a doctor tells him he has a terminal brain tumor, he decides to make his final days everybody else's problem. Joker develops a venom that transforms other villains into versions of him. Their skin turns white, their hair turns green, and their existing obsessions become filtered through his need for chaos. The Slab erupts. Black Mass uses his power to pull the entire prison into a black hole, allowing the infected inmates to spread across the world. That premise sends Jokerized villains into dozens of DC titles. Solomon Grundy attacks with Joker's personality layered over a creature who was already difficult to control. The Deep Six become underwater Jokers. Superpowered criminals who normally follow recognizable plans begin acting for the laugh alone. Joker quickly becomes annoyed by the results. His followers keep repeating familiar event behavior, threaten cities, poison the atmosphere, create dramatic skies. For a man trying to produce one final original joke, the DC Universe has become painfully predictable. Kirk Langstrom works with Harley Quinn to create an antidote. Harley understands the toxin and wants to prove that Joker cannot replace her with an army of copies. Black Canary discovers that the medical scans were altered. Joker was never dying. The doctors hoped fear of death might make him less destructive, which suggests nobody involved had read a single Joker file. The story turns personal when Huntress finds Robin's torn uniform after Tim Drake disappears near Killer Croc. Nightwing believes Tim is dead. Dick attacks Joker and beats him until his heart stops. Batman, Robin, and the others arrive seconds later. Tim is alive. Dick sees what he has done, and Batman resuscitates Joker to spare Nightwing from carrying the killing forever. Joker survives and learns the diagnosis was false. Dick has to live with how close he came to crossing Bruce's line, even though nearly every person in the room understands the anger that put him there. Last Laugh is bloated by design. Jokerizing the whole villain community creates plenty of covers and very little discipline. Its lasting scene is quiet by comparison. Batman forcing life back into his greatest enemy because his oldest son should not have to remember killing him. JLA Avengers. The Justice League and Avengers finally meet because two cosmic beings turn their universes into a game board. Krona, the exiled Malthusian scientist whose attempt to witness creation helped cause DC's multiverse, travels across realities, destroying universes in search of the truth behind existence. The Grandmaster challenges him to a contest. Each universe's greatest team must collect 12 objects of power. The items come from both companies. The Cosmic Cube, Infinity Gems, and Ultimate Nullifier belong to Marvel. The Spear of Destiny, Green Lantern's power battery, and the Book of Eternity come from DC. Watching heroes race for them is half museum tour, half playground argument. The teams do not like each other's worlds. The Avengers arrive on DC's Earth and see enormous statues, public museums, and crowds celebrating heroes. They assume the Justice League demands worship. The League visits Marvel's Earth and sees ruined cities, anti-mutant hatred, and civilians who distrust costumed heroes. They assume the Avengers have failed. Those impressions have been manipulated, but they touch a genuine publishing difference. DC heroes are often treated as public legends. Marvel heroes regularly live beside people who fear or resent them. Batman and Captain America stop fighting first. Batman recognizes that Steve can match him long enough for the battle to waste time, so they investigate the actual contest. Their alliance feels completely right. Neither man enjoys being used, and both would rather solve the mechanism than keep punching somebody else's team. The heroes collect the artifacts, but Krona turns on the Grandmaster and forces the universes together. History begins rewriting itself. The teams suddenly remember years of shared adventures that never happened. Hawkeye dies in one version of events. The Justice League sees every failure it has suffered. The Avengers watch Superman's world endure its own pain. The final battle gives readers the images they waited decades to see. Superman carries Captain America's shield and lifts Thor's hammer. Flash races through Marvel's universe even when the local laws cut him off from the Speed Force. Green Lantern energy, chaos magic, and cosmic artifacts fill pages drawn by George Perez, who somehow makes the crowd readable. Krona is defeated and contained inside a cosmic egg. The two universes separate, and most characters lose clear memory of the meeting. JLA Avengers is an intercompany crossover with no line-wide relaunch attached. Its importance comes from completing decades of comparison between the two superhero universes, giving both teams an actual reason to clash and letting them move past it quickly. And yes, Superman is worthy of Mjolnir. Thor explains the enchantment briefly allowed it, because the situation was desperate, but Clark lifted it. The panel exists. The argument is over. Identity crisis. Sue Dibney is murdered inside the home she shares with Ralph Dibney, the elongated man. The security system never triggers. There's no obvious intruder. Sue's body is burned so badly that the heroes struggle to identify how she died. The superhero community gathers for the funeral while spouses and families realize their secret identities may no longer protect them. The investigation uncovers an old secret. Years earlier, Dr. Light broke into the Justice League satellite and sexually assaulted Sue. The League found him. Zatanna, Green Arrow, Hawkman, Black Canary, Atom, Green Lantern, and Flash voted on what to do next. They ordered Zatanna to alter Light's mind, making him less dangerous, and changing his personality. Batman walked in during the procedure and objected, so they erased his memory too. That revelation changes the emotional center of the story. Heroes who present themselves as moral authorities secretly altered a teammate's mind. Green Arrow defends it as protection. Wally West hears what Barry participated in and has to reconsider the man he worshipped. Meanwhile, the attacks continue. Jean Loring, Ray Palmer's former wife, is apparently threatened. Lois Lane receives a letter. Captain Boomerang is sent to kill Jack Drake, Tim Drake's father. Jack receives a warning and manages to shoot Boomerang as Boomerang kills him. Tim hears part of the confrontation through a phone call and arrives too late. The murderer is Jean Loring. She used one of Ray's old Atom costumes to enter Sue's brain and cause a fatal injury, intending only to frighten the superhero community so Ray would return to her. She brings a flamethrower as part of the cover-up. The logic is unstable, and the treatment of Sue has remained deeply controversial. Identity Crisis sold extremely well and pushed DC into a darker era. It also became a dividing line for readers. Some see an effective murder mystery about the cost of secret identities. Others see a story that uses sexual violence and the murder of a beloved supporting character to make the universe feel adult. The consequences are undeniable. Batman learns his friends violated his mind. Tim loses his father. Ralph loses Sue. Ray Palmer disappears in grief. Dr. Light becomes more dangerous after his original personality returns. And Batman responds to the mind wipe by building a surveillance system capable of monitoring every metahuman on Earth. That goes very badly. Infinite Crisis. The single Earth created in 1985 is coming apart from the inside. Batman no longer trusts the League. Wonder Woman is pushed toward lethal force. Superman doubts whether he is doing enough. The three heroes who usually hold the universe together can barely stand in the same room. Several connected stories light the fuse. In the OMAC project, Maxwell Lord reveals that he has taken control of Checkmate and Batman's Brother Eye satellite. Brother Eye can activate ordinary people infected with nanotechnology, turning them into OMAC cyborgs built to hunt metahumans. Blue Beetle discovers the conspiracy. Max shoots him in the head. Max then controls Superman telepathically and makes him attack Batman and Wonder Woman while seeing them as his enemies. Diana catches Max with the lasso of truth and asks how to free Superman. Max tells her she must kill him. She snaps his neck on live global footage. In Day of Vengeance, the Spectre is manipulated into attacking Magic, destroying the Rock of Eternity, and killing the wizard Shazam. In the Rann-Thanagar War, an interplanetary conflict tears across space. Villains United follows Lex Luthor's supposed new society and the Secret Six, resisting it. Then the survivors of the original Crisis return from paradise. Earth 2. Superman, Lois Lane, Alexander Luthor Jr., and Superboy Prime have watched the new Earth for years. They see heroes compromise, families die, and history grow darker. Alexander convinces the others that this world is corrupted, and Earth 2 should return. His real plan is much larger. Alexander has been posing as Lex Luthor and organizing the villains. He builds a tower using the Anti-Monitor's remains and kidnapped heroes whose bodies carry traces of different universes. The machine splits the single Earth back into parallel worlds. Alexander searches through them for a perfect Earth and combines pieces of history, like somebody angrily editing continuity at 3 in the morning. Superboy Prime becomes the event's raw violence. He grew up believing superheroes were fictional, then lived trapped outside reality watching them fail. When Connor Kent and the Teen Titans confront him, Prime panics and begins killing heroes with single blows. The Flashes drag him into the Speed Force. He escapes wearing armor that feeds him solar energy. Connor destroys Alexander's tower and dies in Wonder Girl's arms. His sacrifice stabilizes the worlds long enough for the heroes to respond. Earth 2 Superman learns Alexander used him. His Lois dies after returning to their recreated world, and Kal-El attacks the main Superman in grief. The two eventually recognize the manipulation and join forces against Prime. Superboy Prime flies through a wall of Green Lanterns, killing several, and races toward Oa. The two Supermen drag him through Krypton's red sun, stripping away their powers. They crash on Mogo and continue fighting by hand. Prime beats Kal-El to death before the main Superman finally stops him. Back on Earth, Batman holds a gun on Alexander Luthor. Wonder Woman stops him from firing. Alexander escapes and is later murdered in an alley by Lex Luthor and the Joker, who is deeply offended that a massive villain society was formed without him. The multiverse appears gone again, although 52 will reveal that reality has quietly produced 52 parallel Earths. The main heroes take a year away. Bruce retraces the journey that created Batman, this time with Dick and Tim beside him. Diana tries to understand humanity again. Clark loses his powers and lives as a reporter. Infinite Crisis is DC examining what happened after 20 years of darker stories, and then delivering another extremely violent one. That contradiction is part of it. The event criticizes the loss of hope, while Superboy Prime punches people's heads off. It also restores the idea that the DC universe is bigger than one timeline. The door to the multiverse is open again. Nobody knows it yet. 52, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman disappear from public life for one full year. DC tells that missing year in real time, publishing one issue of 52 every week for 52 weeks. The series follows characters who usually live outside the center of the Justice League, and that choice is the reason it works. Booster Gold attempts to become the hero he always claimed to be. He arrives at disasters with historical information supplied by his robot Skeets, makes sure cameras are present, and enjoys a brief rise in fame. Then Skeets begins giving him inaccurate information. Booster appears to fail publicly and dies stopping a nuclear submarine, except he has staged the death. Rip Hunter has discovered that Skeets is possessed by Mr. Mind, who has evolved into a reality-eating form. Booster had to disappear from history to fight him without being tracked. Renee Montoya receives a very different story. She's left the Gotham police and is drinking her way through the collapse of her old life when the Question recruits her. Vic Sage is dying of cancer. He spends his final months training Renee, investigating the religion of crime, and quietly preparing her to replace him. Vic dies after asking who she will become. Renee eventually puts on the faceless mask. Ralph Dibny is barely functioning after Sue's murder. He follows clues suggesting she may be resurrected, only to discover a cult built around Kryptonian rites and a plot involving Felix Faust. Ralph knows Faust is lying. He walks into the trap anyway, having prepared a binding spell that traps Faust and the demon Neron inside Dr. Fate's tower. Ralph dies and reunites with Sue as a ghost detective. Black Adam begins the year as a brutal ruler of Kahndaq. He rescues an enslaved woman named Adriana Tomaz, shares power with her, and watches her become Isis. Her brother Amon becomes Osiris. For a short period, Adam has a family, and Kahndaq has a ruling group trying to use overwhelming power for something constructive. Then, Osiris is manipulated into killing and is eaten by Sobek, the talking crocodile he trusted. Sobek is actually Famine, one of the four horsemen of Apocalypse. Isis dies soon afterward and tells Adam his mercy was a mistake. Black Adam responds by attacking the nation of Bialya and killing almost everyone in it. The superhero community fights him in World War III. Captain Marvel changes Adam's magic word, leaving him unable to transform because he no longer knows what to say. Elsewhere, Animal Man, Starfire, and Adam Strange are stranded in space. Steel fights Lex Luthor's project to give ordinary people artificial powers. Batwoman enters the main DC universe. The Metal Men return. Every plot moves at a different speed, sometimes disappearing for weeks before coming back. The title finally reveals its second meaning. When the multiverse was briefly restored during Infinite Crisis, the worlds collapsed back together imperfectly. The excess energy created 52 identical Earths. Mr. Mind feeds on their histories, changing them into distinct alternate worlds. The multiverse now has a fixed number, 52. For once, the weekly schedule held. The final issue arrived on time. DC immediately followed it with another weekly series called Countdown, which did not repeat the miracle. 1 year later, while 52 explains the missing year week by week, every regular DC title jumps directly to the other side. The 1 year later initiative begins 2 months after Infinite Crisis ends. Readers open the next issue of an ongoing series and find 12 months have passed. Costumes changed, teams split up, new people took familiar names. The mystery comes from working backwards to learn what happened. Clark Kent begins the year without powers and throws himself into reporting. When his abilities return, he has to decide what kind of Superman will emerge after living as an ordinary man again. Bruce Wayne returns to Gotham with a healthier relationship with Dick and Tim after traveling the world. He adopts Tim and begins treating the Bat family more openly as family, which may be the most unrealistic miracle in the entire event. Diana has disappeared from public view while Donna Troy serves as Wonder Woman. Aquaman appears to have become someone else. Bart Allen ages and takes over as the Flash. Jason Todd briefly operates as Nightwing because one Nightwing apparently did not create enough tension. The jump gives writers permission to reset status quos without showing every transitional step. Then 52 fills in the year and occasionally reveals that the explanation is stranger than anyone guessed. 1 year later has no central villain or final battle. Its event is the gap itself. DC asks readers to live with changed characters first and receive the answers afterward. Sinestro Corps War. Sinestro builds his own Green Lantern Corps, powered by fear. Each yellow ring searches for someone capable of inspiring great fear. The recruits include murderers, monsters, and beings that make ordinary supervillains look manageable. Arkillo becomes the Corps' drill instructor. Amon Sur joins out of resentment toward Hal Jordan. The sentient virus Despotellis infects victims from inside their bodies. Then come the weapons. The Sinestro Corps recruits Superboy Prime, still wearing armor that feeds him solar energy. Cyborg Superman joins with the Manhunters. The Anti-Monitor serves as the Guardian of Fear. Parallax possesses Kyle Rayner after exploiting his grief over his mother's death. The first attack hits Oe. Lanterns are killed, prisoners are freed, and Kyle is taken. Hal, Jon Stewart, and Guy Gardner lead the response, while the Guardians confront a prophecy they buried for generations. The Blackest Night. The Guardians rewrite the Book of Oa and authorize Green Lanterns to use lethal force against the Sinestro Corps. That change lands hard. The rings were tools of intergalactic law that could restrain almost anything. Now they can kill, and several Lanterns use the permission immediately. The war moves to Earth. Sinestro targets Coast City, expecting its residents to evacuate and prove fear rules them. The city lights green candles and stays. Hal's rebuilt home refuses to disappear for somebody else's story again. Kyle is freed from Parallax when Hal, Guy, and John help him confront the entity. The Anti-Monitor is nearly killed and thrown into space, where a dark force transforms his body into a giant black power battery. Superboy Prime tears through heroes until a Guardian sacrifices himself to remove Prime's power and blast him across the multiverse. Hal and Kyle finally defeat Sinestro in Coast City. Sinestro considers the outcome a victory. He forced the Guardians to militarize the Corps and made Green Lanterns use fear as part of their law. The emotional spectrum expands from here. Red rage, blue hope, orange avarice, indigo compassion, and violet love all gain cores of their own. The Green Lantern books become a cosmic epic with wars, prophecies, and enough colored jewelry to ruin any simple reading order. And inside the Black Battery, something begins calling the dead. Countdown to Final Crisis. After the success of 52, DC launches another weekly series. The numbering runs backwards from issue 51 to 0. Every cover moves the universe closer to Final Crisis. The story follows several groups traveling through the newly restored multiverse while the Monitors debate whether unstable characters should be removed from reality. Jimmy Olsen develops a rotating collection of superpowers. Mary Marvel loses the power of Shazam and accepts energy from Black Adam, then falls under darker influences. Donna Troy, Jason Todd, and Kyle Rayner search the multiverse for Ray Palmer. Karate Kid carries a deadly virus. Holly Robinson trains on Themyscira. Pied Piper and Trickster are chained together while fleeing responsibility for Bart Allen's death. Monarch, still connected to Captain Atom after layers of continuity changes, gathers an army to fight the Monitors. His war tears across Earth 51 and other worlds. Superboy Prime appears. Entire universes are threatened while the series keeps adding paths toward a finale it cannot fully show. The central problem sits in the handoff. Countdown was advertised as the road to Final Crisis. Grant Morrison's event begins under different conditions. Character positions do not always align. The death of the New Gods unfolds differently across connected books. Darkseid's plan in Countdown feels separate from the metaphysical fall that begins Final Crisis. Issue 0 attempts to hand everything directly into the next event. Instead, many readers reached Final Crisis and wondered why the story they had followed for 51 weeks barely seemed required. There are enjoyable pieces. Piper and Trickster develop real chemistry. Alternate worlds receive memorable visits. Mary Marvel's fall has striking moments before it becomes repetitive. The weekly format keeps the universe moving. 52 succeeded because 4 writers followed a focused group through one missing year. Countdown follows too many plots while serving an event that barely uses them. Its legacy is a warning. Publishing every week creates momentum. It cannot create direction after the story has already started. Final Crisis. Final Crisis begins after the war in heaven has already been lost. The New Gods are dying. Their spirits fall into human bodies on Earth, and Darkseid's presence begins dragging all of reality down with him. Time bends around the planet, space collapses. Evil is gaining weight. The opening is deliberately disorienting. Anthro, the first boy, receives fire from Metron at the dawn of humanity. In the present, Detective Dan Turpin finds the body of Orion in a garbage bin. A bullet containing radion, poisonous to the New Gods, has traveled backwards through time. Libra gathers Earth's supervillains and promises that evil will finally win. To prove his backing, he murders Martian Manhunter in front of them. John uses his final moments to transmit his memories to his friends. Darkseid's agents release the anti-life equation through every form of communication. Phones, screens, helmets, and broadcasts carry a mathematical proof that free will is pointless. Billions become extensions of Darkseid. Wonder Woman is infected. Batwoman, Catwoman, and Wonder Girl become corrupted furies. The surviving heroes retreat to watchtowers marked with protective symbols. Batman has been captured by Darkseid's forces. He escapes, confronts Darkseid, and breaks his rule against guns for one very specific weapon, the same radion bullet that killed Orion. Batman fires, Darkseid hits him with the Omega Sanction. Superman finds what appears to be Bruce's burned body. Darkseid survives the bullet long enough to transfer into Turpin completely. The Flashes race ahead of the Black Racer, the new god manifestation of death. Barry Allen has returned after decades away, running beside Wally. They lead the Black Racer directly into Darkseid, allowing death to catch him. His body dies. His spirit remains and threatens to pull reality into nothing. Superman confronts Darkseid at the end of existence and sings a counter-frequency that shatters the god's remaining essence. Yes, Superman defeats Darkseid with a song. Within the logic of the story, Darkseid has become a poisonous vibration inside reality. Clark finds the exact note that cancels him. That still leaves Mandrak, a corrupted monitor feeding on stories themselves. Superman activates the Miracle Machine, a device he memorized after seeing it in the Legion's future, and wishes for a happy ending. An army of supermen and heroes from across the multiverse answers. Earth survives. The monitors vanish. Nix Wotan, the last monitor, chooses life as an ordinary human, and Batman is alive. The Omega Sanction sent him backwards through time. The final pages show Bruce drawing a bat on a cave wall in prehistory. Final Crisis asks a lot from the reader. Major explanations sit in tie-ins. Time stops behaving normally. Symbolism arrives before plot clarification. Read quickly. It can feel like several events fighting inside one book. Read closely. The central line is clear. Darkseid turns existence into a world where choice has ended, and the heroes keep choosing anyway. The event kills Batman in the eyes of the world, brings Barry Allen back, and ends the fourth world cycle that began with Jack Kirby. Grant Morrison then sends Bruce Wayne through history because apparently death was not complicated enough. Blackest Night. Across the universe, black rings search for the dead. They enter graves, morgues, and crypts. They rebuild bodies and restore familiar faces with just enough memory to hurt the living. The rings are controlled by Nekron, the embodiment of the place before life, and Black Hand becomes his herald. The emotional spectrum is now fully active. Green represents will. Yellow is fear. Red is rage. Blue is hope. Violet is love. Orange is avarice. Indigo is compassion. Black is death. Every resurrected character returns as a Black Lantern. They can read emotions as colored lights inside living bodies and provoke whichever feeling will make their target easiest to kill. Firestorm confronts the dead, Ronnie Raymond. Aquaman returns to torment Mera. Elongated Man and Sue Dibney attack the heroes while speaking like the loving couple they used to be. Hawkman's dead history arrives almost all at once. Batman appears as a Black Lantern skull, although the body is a clone created by Darkseid. Nekron uses the emotional shock to connect to the heroes who have died and returned over the years. Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Arrow, and others are briefly claimed because Resurrection left a door open inside them. The different Corps form an alliance that barely holds. Larfleeze does not want to share anything. Atrocitus wants revenge. Sinestro remains Sinestro. St. Walker's blue light can supercharge a Green Lantern, while Indigo 1 provides the knowledge holding the group together. The rings temporarily recruit new deputies on Earth. Wonder Woman becomes a Star Sapphire. Barry receives a blue ring. Lex Luthor receives orange and immediately becomes even more Lex Luthor than usual. The Scarecrow receives yellow and is delighted to feel fear again. Nekron's goal centers on the entity, the white embodiment of life hidden inside Earth. Sinestro bonds with it and declares himself the greatest being in the universe. That lasts about as long as you would expect. Hal takes the entity from him and shares the white light with the other heroes. White Lantern energy severs Nekron's connection to the living world. Black Hand is restored to life, and his resurrection causes a group of dead heroes and villains to return permanently. Aquaman, Martian Manhunter, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Firestorm, Jade, Captain Boomerang, Osiris, Maxwell Lord, Professor Zoom, and several others wake again. Deadman also returns to life, which is deeply inconvenient for a man whose entire job depended on being dead. Blackest Night pays off years of Green Lantern setup while using DC's resurrection habit as the threat. Every character who came back from death unknowingly weakened the boundary Nekron wanted to cross. For one event, Death remembers that it was supposed to mean something, Brightest Day. 12 resurrected characters receive assignments from the White Lantern Ring. The ring does not explain itself politely. It drags Boston Brand across the country, grants and removes abilities, and tells each returned person they have work to finish. Aquaman discovers that his telepathy now summons dead sea life. Mera reveals the existence of Zeeble and the assassins sent from her world. Jackson Hyde enters the story as a new Aqualad, unaware that his father is Black Manta. Hawkman and Hawkgirl investigate the curse behind their repeated reincarnations. They reach Hawkworld, confront Hathset, and briefly believe they may finally live without dying together. The White Lantern has other plans. Ronnie Raymond and Jason Rush are forced to share Firestorm again while a second consciousness, Deathstorm, grows inside their matrix. Martian Manhunter attempts to restore life to Mars and confronts another Green Martian, Decaduraz, whose obsession with him turns murderous. Maxwell Lord uses his restored telepathy to erase the world's memory of his existence. Only a small group, including Booster Gold, Captain Atom, Fire and Ice, continue hunting him. Captain Boomerang receives a single instruction: throw a boomerang at Dove. Boston eventually understands that the returns were preparing a protector for Earth's life force. The corrupted Swamp Thing has become an avatar of Nekron. Alec Holland is restored as the true Swamp Thing and defeats him, reconnecting the Green to a human consciousness. Boston sacrifices his life to protect Dove and fully activate the new champion. He ends the series as Deadman again, having briefly felt food, touch, and love after years as a ghost. Brightest Day gives several characters a new direction, but its biggest legacy gets interrupted almost immediately. The same month it ends, Barry Allen wakes up in a timeline where the world is about to destroy itself. Flashpoint. Barry Allen wakes at his desk and discovers he has no powers. His mother is alive. His father died years earlier. Nobody recognizes the name Superman. The Justice League never formed. Cyborg is America's greatest public hero. Barry initially believes Reverse Flash changed history. He travels to Wayne Manor and finds Thomas Wayne beneath the Batman mask. In this timeline, young Bruce died in Crime Alley. Thomas became a violent Batman who uses guns. Martha Wayne broke under the grief and became the Joker. That single reversal tells Barry how far he is from home. The larger world is close to extinction. Wonder Woman and Aquaman began a relationship that collapsed into murder and war. Diana killed Mera. Atlantis and Themyscira now fight across Europe. Aquaman's weapons sank Western Europe, while the Amazons conquered Britain. Millions are already dead. Superman landed in Metropolis instead of Kansas, and was captured by the government. He has spent his entire life inside an underground cell, thin, frightened, and untouched by sunlight. When Barry, Thomas, and Cyborg free him, sunlight activates his power and he panics into the sky. Barry recreates his original accident by strapping himself into an electric chair surrounded by chemicals. The first lightning strike burns him horribly. He tries again before he is healed. The second works. Professor Zoom finally appears and tells Barry the truth. Eobard did not create this world. Barry did. He traveled back to stop Eobard from murdering Nora Allen. The act fractured time far beyond his family, changing events that occurred years before and after. Eobard calls himself a living paradox because Barry's interference has severed him from the timeline that created him. Thomas kills Eobard with a sword through the chest. The war reaches its final stage. Superman returns to the fight. The Enchantress kills Billy Batson. Aquaman and Wonder Woman refuse peace while the world breaks around them. Barry runs back through time and stops his earlier self from saving Nora. As reality reforms, a mysterious figure named Pandora uses the moment to merge the DC universe with the Wildstorm and Vertigo lines. The result is a new continuity. Before Barry leaves the Flashpoint world, Thomas gives him a letter for Bruce. In the repaired timeline, Barry delivers it. Batman reads the words from the father he lost and quietly thanks him. It is the emotional ending to a story that changes DC publishing overnight. The New 52. In September 2011, DC cancels or relaunches its entire superhero line and publishes 52 new first issues. Some characters begin again. Others continue with years of history compressed into roughly 5 years. Readers are told this is a fresh entry point. Then Batman appears with 4 former Robins and a recent history that would require the busiest 5 years any human has ever survived. Superman receives a younger status quo. His marriage to Lois Lane is gone. He wears Kryptonian armor instead of the classic trunks and begins Action Comics in jeans, work boots, and a small cape. Wonder Woman's origin changes, making her the biological daughter of Zeus and revealing darker secrets behind the Amazons. Cyborg becomes a founding member of the Justice League in place of Martian Manhunter. Barbara Gordon returns as Batgirl after regaining the ability to walk. The Justice Society moves to a separate Earth 2 title. Aquaman gets a major relaunch that directly confronts years of jokes about his powers. Animal Man and Swamp Thing build an excellent connected horror story through the red, green, and rot. Then there are the missing people. Wally West disappears. His marriage to Linda and their children are erased. The original Teen Titans history becomes unclear. Donna Troy and Cassandra Cain vanish for years. Stephanie Brown is absent. The legacy structure that defined post-crisis DC is cut back because editors want the heroes younger. The line produces major successes. Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's Batman begins with The Court of Owls and grows into one of the defining runs of the decade. Jeff Johns and Ivan Reis rebuild Aquaman's profile. Jeff Lemire's Animal Man, Francis Manapul's Flash, and several other books use the reset creatively. It also produces titles canceled within months, contradictory origins, and constant uncertainty over which old stories still happened. Green Lantern continues almost directly from Brightest Day. Batman keeps much of Grant Morrison's history. Superman resets heavily. Nobody receives one consistent rule. The New 52 was advertised as a clean start. In practice, it became another layer of DC continuity. Later stories restore marriages, teams, children, and memories without completely removing the New 52 era. And the first line-wide event of this new universe reveals that its greatest heroes have already been watched by an evil Justice League from another Earth. Trinity War. The Justice League is no longer one team. The main league operates publicly under Superman. Steve Trevor leads the Justice League of America, a government-backed group deliberately assembled with counters for the other league. Justice League Dark handles magical threats. All three are pulled toward the mystery of Pandora's box. Pandora believes the skull-shaped object can remove evil from the world. The Phantom Stranger and the Question Warner that its history reaches back to the original Trinity of Sin. Nobody asking why a device called Pandora's box might be dangerous manages to stop anybody from opening it. During a confrontation in Kondak, Superman apparently loses control and kills Dr. Light with a blast of heat vision. The heroes divide over whether Superman is responsible. Wonder Woman searches for magical help. Batman investigates the physical evidence. Amanda Waller pushes the Justice League of America into the middle. The Atom, Rhonda Pineda, has been working against the main league from inside it. She placed a tiny sliver of kryptonite inside Superman's brain, causing the loss of control that killed Light. Her real identity is Atomica, a member of the crime syndicate. The outsider leading the secret society is revealed as Alfred Pennyworth of Earth-3. He uses Pandora's box as a portal because the object is actually advanced technology from his world. The crime syndicate arrives. Ultraman inhales kryptonite for power. Owlman plans around everyone. Superwoman carries a child whose father remains secret. Power Ring is controlled by a parasitic ring that terrifies him. Johnny Quick and Atomica treat murder like a date activity. Sea King dies almost as soon as he crosses over, which is a rough beginning for evil Aquaman. Trinity War ends at the exact moment its true conflict starts. Dr. Light's death, Pandora, and the Three Leagues were set up. The payoff belongs to the villains. Forever evil. The crime syndicate announces that the Justice League is dead and offers the world to its villains. The syndicate trapped the League inside the Firestorm Matrix. With the central heroes gone, criminal groups divide cities and destroy symbols of resistance. Nightwing is captured, unmasked as Dick Grayson on a global broadcast and strapped to a murder machine connected to his heart. Batman escapes the initial attack with Catwoman and searches for countermeasures. He carries a yellow ring once intended to stop Green Lantern, a red artificial sun device for Superman, and other emergency plans that immediately show Owlman how his mind works. Lex Luthor becomes the event's lead. He assembles Black Adam, Sinestro, Captain Cold, Black Manta, Deathstroke, and a gentle, imperfect clone called Bizarro. None of them becomes nicer. They simply recognize that the crime syndicate has taken their world. The villains have useful abilities the syndicate did not plan around. Captain Cold can freeze Johnny Quick's leg and shatter it. Sinestro understands fear better than Power Ring and tears his arm off. Black Manta has no emotional weakness left for the syndicate to exploit. Bizarro forms a real bond with Lex, calling him friend. When Alexander Luthor of Earth-3 kills Bizarro, Lex's grief is immediate and surprisingly honest. Alexander is the father of Superwoman's child and the real threat hiding behind the syndicate. He can steal powers by saying, "Mazas," the reverse of Shazam. He kills Johnny Quick and takes his speed before attacking everyone else. Lex defeats him by turning the transformation against him. The Justice League escapes the Firestorm Matrix. Ultraman is weakened by sunlight. Superwoman is captured and Owlman disappears. Dick Grayson survives after Lex temporarily stops his heart to disarm the murder machine. The world believes Nightwing died, allowing Dick to enter the spy organization Spiral under a new identity. Lex saves the planet, receives public praise, and demands membership in the Justice League. He also works out that Batman is Bruce Wayne. For a while, Superman has to share a team with the man who spent years trying to kill him. Forever Evil understands that a villain event needs more than evil costumes on familiar heroes. Its best moments come from terrible people discovering they are capable of loyalty when something they value is threatened. The Multiversity. Grant Morrison takes the 52 Earths revealed after Infinite Crisis and gives them a map. The Multiversity is told across separate one-shots, each set on a different world. Earth-20 has pulp heroes facing an invasion from its evil opposite, Earth-40. Earth-16 is populated by the bored children of famous heroes, living in a world where their parents solve nearly every problem. Earth-10 remains under Nazi rule and forces Overman, its Superman, to face the horror supporting his society. Thunderworld follows the Marvel family in a bright universe where Dr. Sivana's schemes somehow feel both innocent and enormous. Pax Americana uses the Charlton Heroes in a formal experiment built around the structure of Watchmen. The Society of Superheroes fights through pulp science fiction. Each issue changes visual language with the world. The threat linking them is the Gentry, beings from beyond the local multiverse that invade stories by corrupting them. Nix Uotan, the former Monitor from Final Crisis, is pulled back into cosmic duty after reading a haunted comic book. That comic is Ultra Comics. Ultra Comics exists as a hero inside his own issue. The reader activates him by reading. The Gentry infect the story, address the person holding the book, and turn the physical comic into part of the plot. It is clever, uncomfortable, and extremely Morrison. The heroes eventually form Justice Incarnate, a team drawn from different Earths to protect the multiverse. The guidebook establishes the Orrery of Worlds, the Sphere of the Gods, the Monitor Sphere, the Source Wall, and the larger structure later events will break open. No main continuity is rebooted. The Multiversity does something DC badly needed after years of crises. It shows what the parallel Earths are for when they are allowed to exist. Then Convergence brings back nearly every continuity DC had previously thrown away. Convergence. Brainiac has collected cities from timelines that no longer exist. Pre-Crisis Gotham, the Flashpoint world, the pre-Flashpoint DC universe, Kingdom Come, and dozens of other realities survive beneath domes on a planet outside normal time. The domes suppress superpowers. Some cities have lived trapped for a full year. The being controlling the planet calls himself Telos. He serves Brainiac and announces a tournament. The domes will fall, the cities will fight, and only one will survive. The main story follows heroes from Earth 2 after their world is destroyed. They arrive on Telos, challenge his control, and discover that the Brainiac behind the collection is an evolved version connected to multiple incarnations across DC history. The tie-ins carry most of the emotional value. Clark Kent and Lois Lane from before Flashpoint are married and expecting a child. Wally West is present with Linda and their children. Stephanie Brown is Batgirl again. Cassandra Cain returns. Characters erased by the New 52 receive 2 issues to exist as themselves. The tournament collapses when the heroes convince Telos that Brainiac used him. Brainiac releases the cities but cannot safely return all of them to dead timelines. Parallax-era Hal Jordan, pre-Flashpoint Superman, Lois. Their newborn son Jonathan and the Flash travel back to the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. They prevent the collapse that destroyed the old multiverse, allowing its worlds to continue evolving somewhere beyond the main continuity. The explanation is deliberately broad. DC declares that its previous universes still exist, then moves forward without giving every restored timeline an ongoing series. Convergence was produced while DC moved offices from New York to California, and you can feel the transitional purpose. It clears publishing space, fills 2 months, and reassures readers that the characters they miss have not been erased forever. The pre-Flashpoint Superman, Lois and John remain especially important. They are about to replace the New 52 Superman family at the center of the line. Darkseid War. The Anti-Monitor arrives with one objective: kill Darkseid and free himself from the anti-life equation. His original name is Mobius. Long ago, he sat in the Mobius chair and sought knowledge of the universe's origin. He found the anti-life equation and became the Anti-Monitor. Now he believes Darkseid's death can release him. Darkseid's daughter Grail helped set the war in motion. Her mother, the Amazon Marina Black, gave birth on the same night as Wonder Woman. Grail carries Amazon training, new god power, and a plan that uses the Justice League as pieces. The battle turns members of the League into gods. Batman sits in the Mobius chair and gains near-total knowledge. He asks who killed his parents, then asks the Joker's true name. The chair answers that there are 3 Jokers, a reveal DC will take years to address. Superman is saturated with energy from Apocalypse and becomes a harsher god of strength. The Flash merges with the Black Racer and becomes the god of death. Green Lantern Hal Jordan becomes the god of light. Shazam receives powers from a new set of gods. Lex Luthor gains the Omega effect and becomes ruler of Apocalypse. Darkseid fights the Anti-Monitor directly. Grail uses the Flash and Black Racer to strike Darkseid, killing him. His death sends a shock through reality and leaves Grail free to pursue the next stage. She brings Darkseid back through the infant child of Superwoman and Alexander Luthor. The baby absorbs energy from powerful beings, while Grail uses the anti-life equation to control the Justice League. Wonder Woman helps break the control, and Grail escapes with Darkseid reduced to an infant. At the end, Owlman sits in the Mobius chair beside Metron and asks for the secrets of the universe. A blue light appears. Both vanish. The blue light is the first clear sign that somebody outside normal DC continuity has been changing history. Dr. Manhattan is coming, DC Rebirth. Wally West is trapped inside the Speed Force, watching a world that no longer remembers him. He can see what changed. Relationships disappeared. Heroes became younger and more isolated. 10 years were stolen from history. Wally tries to contact the people he loved, but each failed attempt pulls him closer to being absorbed forever. Batman discovers the comedian's blood-stained smiley face button embedded in the Batcave wall. Johnny Thunder screams about the missing Justice Society. Adam receives a message from Ray Palmer. Blue Beetle meets Dr. Fate. Pandora, once presented as the cause of the New 52, is disintegrated by a blue hand. Wally visits Linda Park. She does not recognize him. Finally, he goes to Barry Allen. Wally says goodbye, thanking Barry for the life he gave him. Barry suddenly remembers and pulls him out of the Speed Force. That hug sold the entire initiative. DC Universe Rebirth #1 reveals that a powerful being deliberately removed 10 years from history, weakening bonds between heroes. The final pages reveal Dr. Manhattan's symbol on Mars and quote, Watchmen. Across the line, old elements return. Green Arrow and Black Canary reunite. The original Wally joins the Titans. Superman's marriage to Lois and their son John move to the center. The pre-Flashpoint and New 52 versions of Superman eventually merge into one history through Superman Reborn. Rebirth is a publishing relaunch dressed as a mystery. Its emotional argument is clearer than its mechanics. DC had cut away too much legacy, love, and accumulated history. Readers wanted those connections back. The Watchmen plot will continue slowly in Doomsday Clock. Before that resolves, Batman discovers another reason reality has grown darker. Dark Knight's metal. Batman has spent years exposed to strange metals. Electrum revived him through the Court of Owls. Dionysium healed him after his fight with Joker. Promethium, Nth Metal, and the metal of the god Barbatos all connect Bruce to something beneath the known multiverse. The Dark Multiverse is an ocean of unstable worlds formed from fear and failed possibility. Most universes die before they can rise. Barbatos, a dragon-like god assigned to destroy decaying worlds, has allowed them to survive and plans to drag the main universe into the darkness. Batman discovers the conspiracy and immediately tries to investigate alone. The Justice League tells him to stop. He does not. The Court of Owls and other agents complete the ritual, using Batman as a doorway. Barbatos invades with 7 Dark Knights, each a Bruce Wayne from a nightmare Earth. The Red Death stole the Flash's speed. The Murder Machine merged with a version of Cyborg's technology. The Dawnbreaker used a Green Lantern ring without moral restraint. The Drowned transformed herself through Atlantean biology. The Merciless took Ares' helmet. The Devastator infected himself with the Doomsday virus to kill Superman. And the Batman Who Laughs was poisoned by Joker toxin after killing his world's Joker. He combines Bruce's planning with Joker's complete lack of limits. The heroes split across impossible locations searching for Nth Metal. Superman and Batman are trapped in nightmare worlds. Wonder Woman, Hawkgirl, and Dr. Fate lead Resistance. Dream of the Endless gives clues. Plastic Man, who has been sitting dormant as an egg, becomes important because his body reacts to the frequencies connecting worlds. Metal commits to every idea it has. The final battle uses 10th metal, the substance of creation itself. The heroes imagine armor and weapons into existence, defeat Barbatos, and raise the Earth out of the dark multiverse. Their victory breaks the Source Wall. That wall marked the edge of the known cosmos. Behind it waits a larger omniverse and beings such as Perpetua, the creator who formed the original multiverse. The Justice League has saved Earth and opened a hole in creation. Also, the Batman Who Laughs escapes. That may be the more immediate problem. Doomsday Clock. 7 years after the New 52 began, DC finally explains who stole its missing decade. Dr. Manhattan left the world of Watchmen and entered the DC Universe, a reality where history keeps rearranging itself around Superman. Fascinated, he begins making changes. He moves a Green Lantern inches out of Alan Scott's reach during a train crash in 1940. Alan dies. Without the original Green Lantern, the Justice Society never forms. Their influence disappears from history, which also alters the legion of superheroes and generations of legacy characters. Manhattan prevents the Kents from surviving Clark's high school prom night. Superman loses his parents earlier, making him more isolated. Each change creates a version of DC history Manhattan observes, including the New 52. The present story begins on the ruined world of Watchmen. Ozymandias searches for Manhattan with a new Rorschach, the Mime, and the Marionette. They cross into the DC universe, where political tension around superheroes has reached breaking point. The Superman theory claims the United States government deliberately created metahumans. Black Adam offers Kondak as a sanctuary. Russia forms the People's Heroes. Nations build their own teams. A confrontation in Moscow turns into a metahuman war after Firestorm appears to transform civilians into glass. Ozymandias has manipulated much of it to force Manhattan into the open. Manhattan can see every moment except what happens after Superman charges toward him. He wonders whether Superman will kill him or the universe will end. Clark does neither. When the confrontation arrives, an angry crowd attacks Manhattan. Superman protects him. That choice makes Manhattan understand the metaverse. The DC universe continuously shifts around Superman, and each era creates a new version while preserving the ones before it as parallel worlds. Manhattan restores Alan Scott's survival and the Justice Society returns. The Legion returns. Clark's timeline expands. Manhattan undoes much of the history he removed and leaves the universe after transferring his power to a child he names Clark. Doomsday Clock contains huge continuity answers, but its repeated delays meant other books moved ahead before it finished. Its political plot also competes with the quieter, stronger idea at the center. Dr. Manhattan studies Superman as an experiment and finally encounters a person he cannot reduce to one. The button in the Batcave leads all the way to the return of the Justice Society. DC's lost time is back, Heroes in Crisis. Sanctuary is a hidden treatment center created by Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman for heroes dealing with trauma. Patients wear plain robes, enter private chambers, and speak to computer simulations built around their needs. The confessions are recorded behind masks, supposedly protected by complete anonymity. Then almost everyone inside is killed. Booster Gold and Harley Quinn survive, each believing the other committed the massacre. The dead include Arsenal, Lagoon Boy, Hotspot, Commander Steel, and several lesser-known heroes. Wally West is among the bodies. Batman investigates the physical evidence, while Lois Lane receives leaked Sanctuary confession videos. The public learns that superheroes have panic attacks, addictions, grief, and fear. That exposure could have been the entire event on its own. The killer is Wally. Overwhelmed by the loss of Linda and his children from the altered timeline, Wally suffers a breakdown. His Speed Force energy erupts and kills the other patients accidentally. In panic, he stages evidence, moves bodies, travels through time, and creates an apparent future version of his own corpse to hide what happened. Wally eventually confesses. Booster and Harley stop him from completing the time loop exactly as planned, and Superman speaks publicly about the need for heroes to seek help. The response from fans was fierce. Roy Harper dies as collateral damage. Sanctuary's treatment looks dangerously automated. Wally, a character defined by empathy and family, becomes responsible for a mass death and elaborate cover-up. Later comics work to repair the damage. Wally's family returns. The Speed Force surge receives additional manipulation around it. Roy comes back to life, but Heroes in Crisis remains attached to Wally's history because the original pages still happened. There's a good idea buried inside the event. Heroes need mental health care, and public symbols still suffer privately. The mystery turns that idea into a crime scene. Year of the Villain. Lex Luthor dies and returns as something he calls Apex Lex. He is allied with Perpetua, the creator of the multiverse released after the Source Wall broke. Perpetua designed the original multiverse as a weapon and was imprisoned by cosmic judges called the Source Judges. Now she wants it back. Lex sends offers to villains across the DC line. Accept his gift and receive the power, technology, or knowledge needed to defeat your hero. Mr. Freeze gains a cure for Nora. Cheetah receives a god-killing weapon. King Cold controls Central City's underworld. The Batman Who Laughs secretly infects 6 heroes with corrupted toxin, including Shazam and Supergirl. The Justice League fights Perpetua across time and space, gathering cosmic forces and trying to awaken enough collective belief in justice to counter her. They lose. Perpetua restores the Legion of Doom and reshapes reality around villainy. Meanwhile, Lex and the Batman Who Laughs turn on each other in Hell Arisen. The Batman Who Laughs wins and convinces Perpetua that he will be a better partner. That is an astonishingly bad decision for everyone, including Perpetua. The infected Batman has already seen a version of Bruce Wayne with Dr. Manhattan's powers. He is about to build one. Dark Knight's death metal. Perpetua has remade Earth into a nightmare landscape and uses crisis energy from fear and conflict to maintain her power. Wonder Woman rules the remains of Themyscira as a prison warden. Batman is presumed dead. Superman is trapped inside the sun and forced to power it. The Batman Who Laughs commands an army of dark multiverse Batmen with names such as Batum, Bee, Rex, and Castle Bat. One of them is literally Gotham City, turned into Batman architecture. Then Wonder Woman kills the Batman Who Laughs with an invisible chainsaw. His followers transplant his brain into the body of a Bruce Wayne who recreated Dr. Manhattan's accident. He returns as the Darkest Knight, possessing reality-altering power and exactly the personality that should never receive it. Batman returns with a Black Lantern ring capable of raising the dead. The heroes learn that earlier crises were divided between crisis energy, born from division and fear, and anti-crisis energy, born from connection. They need to redirect the history of DC's major events and starve Perpetua of power. The story races through Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, and Final Crisis, while armies fight across multiple Earths. Superboy Prime receives one of the strongest chapters. Everyone sees him as the furious fan who broke reality. Given a chance to betray the heroes for his perfect world, he attacks the Darkest Knight instead and earns a quiet return home. The Darkest Knight kills Perpetua and absorbs her remaining power. Wonder Woman ascends with anti-crisis energy, confronts him at the end of time, and pushes him into the death of the universe. Reality restarts again. This time, the Omniverse opens. Past events are broadly restored to memory. Parallel worlds exist without a fixed limit. The characters understand that their histories have been changed repeatedly. Death metal looks absolutely Insane. Wonder Woman has a glowing chainsaw. Batman rides a skeletal motorcycle. Every page seems determined to become an album cover. Underneath that noise, the editorial result is simple. DC stops insisting that only one version of its past counts. If a story mattered to a character, some form of it can matter again. That freedom becomes the foundation of Infinite Frontier. Future State. Before DC reveals its new present, it jumps forward into several possible futures. For 2 months in early 2021, the regular line pauses. Future State shows where the characters could end up after Death Metal. With different books set at different points along the timeline, Gotham has fallen under control of the Magistrate, a private security force using drones and masked peacekeepers to outlaw vigilantes. Bruce Wayne is presumed dead and operates with improvised equipment beneath the city. Jace Fox becomes a new Batman and confronts the symbol from a completely different life. John Kent serves as Superman, protecting Earth while Clark is away. Clark has been trapped on Warworld, where he fights as a gladiator and inspires prisoners who see the man underneath the icon. Yara Flor appears as Wonder Woman, a Brazilian hero connected to a previously unseen Amazon tribe. Her design and personality make her an immediate breakout character. Jess Chambers becomes a non-binary Flash from Earth-11. Joe Mullen represents the Green Lanterns. Jackson Hyde is Aquaman, and Andy Curry, the daughter of Arthur and Mira, joins him after years lost beyond normal space. The future Justice League hides its civilian identities from one another, believing personal distance will protect the team. It does the opposite. White Martians exploit the lack of trust and take their places. Some futures are bleak. Shazam carries a terrible secret. The Titan's school has fallen. The Four Horsemen haunt the survivors. Immortal Wonder Woman travels to the end of creation and meets the Spectre as the universe dies. Future State presents several possible timelines. Later books borrow characters and ideas while changing the road toward them. Yara enters the present. Jace becomes Batman. The Magistrate rises during Fear State. John takes the Superman name. The event functions as a massive preview room. DC shows the destinations first, watches which ideas connect, then returns to the present and chooses what to keep. Infinite Frontier. The Omniverse is open, and everyone can feel that history has changed. Heroes remember lives from before Flashpoint. The Justice Society exists again. Parallel worlds destroyed in older crises have returned in new forms. Nobody receives a complete manual. Infinite Frontier begins with a one-shot moving across the line. Stargirl finds the 7 soldiers of victory. Alan Scott tells his children, Jade and Obsidian, that he is gay. Roy Harper is alive. Barry prepares to leave the main Flash role to Wally and join Justice Incarnate as an explorer of the new multiverse. Then, Darkseid kills the Quintessence. The Cosmic Council includes beings such as the Spectre, Hera, Highfather, and the Phantom Stranger. Darkseid appears in a newly unified form and destroys them, announcing that his previous versions were fragments. He wants control of the larger reality now available. President Superman of Earth-23 leads Justice Incarnate, whose members include Captain Carrot, Flashpoint Batman, Mary Marvel of Earth-5, and heroes from across the multiverse. They investigate disappearances linked to Earth Omega, a world outside the normal map. Barry becomes trapped in a perfect false reality where his mother is alive and every painful part of his history seems repaired. Psycho Pirate maintains the illusion. Barry eventually recognizes that a life without the people and losses that shaped him cannot hold. Darkseid wants the power associated with the Great Darkness and uses a machine called the Multivision to crack reality open. The heroes stop the immediate plan, but the breach reveals a threat waiting beyond him. The final pages lead into Justice League Incarnate, where the Great Darkness gathers a dark army containing Darkseid, Doomsday, Neuron, Eclipso, and other forces. Pariah stands at its head. For the first time since 1985, the man cursed to watch worlds die believes he can bring his own world back. Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. Pariah attacks the Justice League with the full Dark Army. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Jon Stewart, Hawkgirl, Aquaman, Green Arrow, Black Canary, and Zatanna fight beings that would each require an event of their own. Pariah channels the Great Darkness and apparently kills them. Black Adam escapes alone. He returns to Earth with the worst possible message. The Justice League is dead. The deaths are an illusion. Pariah has trapped each hero inside a private reality built from desire. Superman lives in a world where John grows safely beside him. Batman solves an endless mystery in a Gotham shaped around his mind. Wonder Woman inhabits a peaceful world she keeps trying to protect. Their energy powers Pariah's plan to restore the infinite multiverse and recover the Earth he lost in the original Crisis. On the main Earth, legacy heroes have to respond without waiting for the League. Nightwing becomes the center. John Kent attempts to build a replacement Justice League, including Harley Quinn and Killer Frost, then learns that assembling famous powers is easier than creating trust. Deathstroke leads the secret society in an attack on Titan's Academy. He has been infected and amplified by the darkness, but his willingness to target younger heroes requires very little supernatural encouragement. Beast Boy is shot. The school burns. Black Adam treats mercy as weakness and repeatedly tells the younger generation they are unprepared. The event expands as Pariah's worlds are discovered. Barry Allen escapes his prison and helps free the others. Hal Jordan confronts Pariah directly. Mr. Terrific and the surviving heroes realize Pariah has chained part of the Great Darkness to his grief and is using its power to justify his obsession. Deathstroke takes control of the Dark Army and attacks Earth. Black Adam shares his power with other heroes, creating a group of supercharged champions. Nightwing faces Deathstroke while the wider community stands behind him. Pariah is defeated and trapped inside a reality of his own. The Justice League returns to find Dick Grayson's generation already saved the day. The Infinite Multiverse returns. The original title Dark Crisis changes midway through publication to Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, revealing the direct connection DC had tried to keep hidden before release. The Justice League disbands for a time, recognizing that other teams need space to lead. The Titans step forward as Earth's central superhero team. That decision lasts until Amanda Waller looks at a world without a Justice League and sees an opportunity. Lazarus Planet. The Devil Nezha uses Black Alice to channel magical power from across Earth into the Helmet of Fate. Batman and Damian Wayne stop him during Batman vs. Robin, but the helmet shatters above a Lazarus pit. The energy erupts through a volcano and spreads around the planet as magical rain. Science stops behaving properly. Magic changes without warning. Powers disappear, mutate, or arrive in people who never had them. Gods and spirits wake. The green becomes unstable. City Boy develops a connection to urban environments. Dreamer, Monkey Prince, Power Girl, Blue Beetle, and dozens of others deal with separate effects across the tie-ins. Batman absorbs part of Nezha's power and becomes violently corrupted. Damian has to organize the response, while his father is one of the threats. Black Alice, whose abilities helped create the disaster, becomes essential to repairing the magical imbalance. King Firebull pursues the 8 immortal powers held by different heroes. His conflict with Nezha and Monkey Prince brings Chinese mythology into the center of the event. Nezha's missing restraint, the red armillary sash, becomes part of the struggle over whether his demonic nature can be controlled. The storm eventually passes, but it leaves changed powers and new magical conditions behind. Lazarus Planet is structured more like a collection of connected transformations than one continuous war. The fun comes from watching familiar rules fail in different books, and after several universe-ending crises, there is something refreshing about Batman's main problem being magical rain and an extremely angry sun. Night terrors. Every hero and villain falls asleep. A new enemy called Insomnia searches for the Nightmare Stone, an artifact linked to the boundary between dreams and waking life. He believes the stone is hidden inside the nightmares of the superhero community, so he traps the world in sleep and forces people through their worst fears. The event splits into short miniseries. Batman confronts guilt wearing the faces of the people he failed. Superman lives through a world where he cannot save his family. Wonder Woman's fears twist love and responsibility. The Joker dreams that he finally killed Batman, retired, took an office job, and discovered ordinary life may be his most unbearable nightmare. Some of the best tie-ins understand that a nightmare needs to be personal. Others give a hero a frightening redesign and chase them through 2 issues. That is the nature of a line-wide dream event. Everybody receives a therapy bill. Deadman becomes the unlikely lead. Boston Brand possesses Batman's body and works with Wesley Dodds, the Golden Age Sandman, to navigate the nightmare realm. Damian Wayne stays awake longer than most and fights beside them while Insomnia closes in. Insomnia's hatred comes from loss, and his belief that superheroes bring catastrophe without understanding the ordinary people left underneath it. The Nightmare Stone amplifies that grievance until the entire planet experiences heroes through fear. The heroes defeat him and wake the world, but the public remembers what it felt like to see them as monsters. Amanda Waller steals power from the aftermath, securing the Nightmare Stone for her own plans. A figure called Dr. Hate soon emerges using the Helmet of Hate and Nightmare energy. Night Terrors changes the mood around the heroes. Waller needs people afraid before she can convince them to surrender control. The next event gives her the perfect footage. Titan's Beast World. A creature called the Necrostar approaches Earth. It resembles Starro on an impossible scale, consuming worlds and spreading conquest through spores. Starfire knows what it is. The Titans have no Justice League to call, so Beast Boy proposes an insane solution. He will transform into a Starro large enough to fight it. Gar has copied alien forms before. This requires him to become something the size of a planetary threat and keep his own mind intact. He takes the form fans called Garrow and battles the Necrostar in orbit. The plan works. With Cyborg's help, Gar sends the Necrostar away. Then, Dr. Hate attacks. Gar loses control and his spores fall across Earth. Anyone infected transforms into an animal form shaped by power and personality. Batman becomes a wolf. Black Adam becomes a giant black lion. Giganta becomes an enormous bear. Ordinary people change by the millions. The connection to the Red overwhelms Animal Man. Amanda Waller presents Garrow as proof that superheroes cannot be trusted. She activates the Bureau of Sovereignty and prepares lethal measures against the transformed population. Dr. Hate is working within the disaster, and the figure beneath the helmet is eventually revealed as Dark Raven, the demonic portion of Raven's soul. Waller uses Chester Chunk, as a living weapon inside Garrow, and appears to kill them both. The spores remain active because fragments of Gar's consciousness exist inside every transformed person. Destroying them would slowly destroy him. The Titans find another route. They pull the spores together, restore the infected people, and rebuild Beast Boy's consciousness. Gar survives, carrying the memory of being divided across an entire planet. The public result is uglier. Waller frames the Titans as the cause of the crisis and takes control of the Hall of Justice. The president authorizes her bureau. Dark Raven secretly replaces the true Raven, trapping her inside the Soul Gem. Beast Boy saved Earth by becoming the thing that frightened it. Waller only needs the second half of that sentence. House of Brainiac. Brainiac attacks Metropolis with an army of Zarnians and abducts members of the Superman family. Superman follows with the one person who understands Zarnians better than anyone, Lobo. Their partnership is loud, destructive, and surprisingly effective. Brainiac's goal has changed. He spent years collecting cities, species, and knowledge, reducing living cultures to information he could own. Now he believes pure intelligence has left a gap inside him. He wants a family and creates the Brainiac Queen as the answer. To power her, he gathers abilities and data from across the galaxy. The captured superfamily becomes raw material. The Zarnians serve him through Queen Adira, whose history with Lobo exposes more lies around the destruction of Zarnia. Lex Luthor joins the fight because Brainiac has entered his mind, and because Metropolis remains the city Lex considers his. Superman has every reason to distrust him, and very little time to find another 12th level intellect. Brainiac completes the Queen, but creating a being capable of growth means creating something he cannot fully control. His attempt to manufacture connection through possession fails exactly where it should. The Superman family escapes, Brainiac is defeated, and the Queen is sent away with her memory damaged. That makes her vulnerable to the person waiting to give her a new purpose. Amanda Waller now has Brainiac Queen, Batman's failsafe android, the Bureau of Sovereignty, the Hall of Justice, and a public already frightened by Beast World. She is ready to remove superpowers from Earth. Absolute power. Waller seals the planet before the heroes understand the attack has started. She blocks routes through the multiverse, time stream, and microverse. The United Planets agrees not to interfere. Her information network floods the public with manufactured footage showing heroes attacking civilians. Then Task Force 7 deploys. These Amazo androids are built from Failsafe's technology and Brainiac Queen's ability to absorb power. Each targets a different class of hero. Superman falls from the sky. Speedsters stop. Lantern rings fail. Magical abilities vanish. Waller captures heroes and villains alike because her policy is simple. Nobody should possess power she cannot control. John Kent is taken and cybernetically altered by Brainiac Queen. Dreamer is blackmailed into Waller's service. Green Arrow appears to betray the entire superhero community. The remaining heroes flee without the abilities they have relied on for years. Nightwing takes command. That choice follows directly from Dark Crisis. He coordinates a resistance from the Fortress of Solitude and later Themyscira, while Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman handle separate parts of the counterattack. The depowered heroes have to operate through skill and trust. Barry Allen cannot solve the problem by running faster. Superman is vulnerable to an ordinary weapon. Wonder Woman continues fighting because Amazon training did not come from an Amazo. Waller's alliance begins cracking. The Task Force 7 robots absorb pieces of their victims' morality and develop doubts. Brainiac Queen forms a connection with John. Failsafe believes in order more completely than Waller believes in anything. Green Arrow's betrayal is revealed as a deep cover plan. Martian Manhunter placed a telepathic block inside Oliver so even telepaths would believe his loyalty to Waller was genuine until the right moment. It is an extreme strategy, and his friends remain furious. It also gets him close enough to the device that can reverse the theft. During the final assault on Gamora, Batman and Time Commander prepare an override. Batman loses it. Oliver picks it up, fires it into one of the Amazos, and triggers a chain reaction through Task Force 7. The powers return, most return to their owners. Some are redistributed or altered, creating new abilities across the line. Failsafe shuts down. Brainiac Queen turns against Waller. Dreamer survives through the Dream Realm and confronts the woman who used her. Barry severs the main Earth from the multiverse to stop Waller's alternate world forces from entering. The planet survives, but becomes isolated. Waller still believes she won the argument. She broadcasts a speech about the danger of heroes, unaware that Airwave is sending her confession to the entire world. Her manipulation becomes public. Dreamer removes the secret identities Waller collected from her memory, and Waller is imprisoned at Belle Reve. The heroes leave the event with one obvious conclusion. Disbanding the Justice League created a vacuum that Waller filled. So, they build a league with room for everyone. DC All In. The Justice League Unlimited opens a new watchtower and offers membership to the entire heroic community. At the same time, Darkseid feels incomplete. The main Earth has been separated from the wider multiverse, and the expansion of the Omniverse has divided his presence across reality. He seeks a stronger, unified form. DC All In Special is built as a flipbook. One side follows Superman and the heroes. Turn it over and the other side follows Darkseid. Both stories move toward the same center. Darkseid confronts the Spectre and attacks the new League through magical and cosmic forces. The heroes repel him, but the apparent victory is part of his plan. He sacrifices his current form and passes through a tear in reality. On the other side, Darkseid is reborn into a separate universe and weaves himself into its foundation. This world runs on Omega energy, built around control, destruction, and harder lives for its heroes. The Absolute Universe is born. Absolute Batman has no Wayne Fortune or manner. Absolute Wonder Woman was raised in Hell instead of Themyscira. Absolute Superman comes from a Krypton divided by class, and reaches Earth without the familiar Kent childhood waiting for him. The heroes retain their central qualities under conditions designed to remove the advantages people associate with them. Darkseid's influence grows as their world becomes harsher. He evolves toward King Omega, and weaves himself directly into the universe. Back on the main Earth, Booster Gold investigates the tear. He disappears into a future where Darkseid has already won. The Legion of Superheroes has become the Omega Legion, raised to serve tyranny instead of being inspired by Superman. DC All In launches a publishing era and a connected story. The main line continues with restored history and a huge Justice League. The Absolute books get freedom to rebuild the icons from the ground up. Darkseid connects them. And Booster Gold spends 2 years trapped in a future everyone else has not reached yet. We are yesterday. Gorilla Grodd attacks the new Justice League through time. The crossover runs through Batman/Superman World's Finest and Justice League Unlimited, connecting Mark Waid's stories set in the League's past with its newly expanded present. Grodd reaches back to an earlier Legion of Doom and uses chronal manipulation to turn the League's own history against it. Heroes from different periods collide inside the Watchtower. The present team has almost unlimited membership, but that becomes a weakness when the threat can attack relationships before they formed. The event is smaller than the crises around it. Its real job is to show how Justice League Unlimited functions and move the Darkseid timeline forward. The League survives Grodd's attack. The future does not repair. Doomsday has evolved across repeated deaths into the new Time Trapper. He sees the end of history and warns that King Omega has already conquered the 31st century. Booster returns traumatized by the future. Superman understands that waiting for Darkseid to invade means losing. The League receives one possible answer: create a champion powerful enough to become King Omega first. DCKO. The title does not mean knockout. It means King Omega. Darkseid has transformed the Absolute Universe into a source of Omega energy and rewritten the future around his victory. The present remains the only point where the heroes can still interfere. Time Trapper offers a plan. Earth itself will become a 5-level arena leading toward the heart of Apocalypse. 32 heroes and villains must fight through a tournament. Each victory generates Omega energy. The final survivor bonds with the heart, becomes King Omega. and gains enough power to challenge Darkseid. There is a brutal condition. The tournament rewards aggression. Mercy makes a contestant weaker. Darkseid's system asks the heroes to become more like him in order to defeat him. The Titans remain behind to evacuate Earth while the fighters descend. Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Lex Luthor, Zatanna, Harley Quinn, Captain Atom, Lobo, and others enter the bracket. Villains join because Darkseid's future leaves no kingdom for them to steal. The levels pull from the fighters' identities and fears. Batman is forced into Nightfight, facing different Batmen and futures built around the choices he might make. Other rounds create battles that look impossible even by crossover standards. The boss battle brings in champions from worlds beyond the normal DC line, including Sub-Zero, Homelander, Red Sonja, and Annabelle. It is exactly as chaotic as that list sounds. The tournament keeps revealing that Darkseid is ahead of them. Booster Gold has been used as a doorway in disguise. The Omega Legion enforces a future already shaped around him. Heroes fall, return, or discover that the rules were never neutral. The final contest comes down to Superman and Lex Luthor. Lex does what Lex always does when the universe asks for one champion. He decides the answer must be him. He kills Superman, wins the tournament, and becomes King Omega. For a brief moment, Lex Luthor holds the power to fight Darkseid as the most important being in creation. Then Time Trapper understands his own purpose. Doomsday was created through endless death and return. That makes him a carrier of destruction and second chances. Omega Energy and Alpha Energy. He sacrifices himself to bring Superman back. Superman replaces Lex as King Omega and fights Darkseid across the shape of reality. He draws on Alpha Energy, the force of creation, and restores the heroes who died during the tournament. He defeats Darkseid. Then Clark gives up the crown. The entire tournament was designed around the belief that victory means standing above everyone else. Superman uses its power to return the people who fell, repair the universe, and reject the position Darkseid wanted him to crave. Afterward, he disappears to complete a task the others do not yet understand. Booster Gold is freed. Superboy Prime steps into Metropolis during Superman's absence. Darkseid survives and promises a crisis of absolute proportions. That is where DC's event history currently stands. The multiverse has grown from two Flashes meeting in a living room to an omniverse containing every past, every possible future, and an absolute reality built through Darkseid himself. The pattern has never really changed. DC builds history until the weight becomes difficult to carry. A crisis breaks it. The heroes rebuild. New people inherit the names. Then somebody discovers another wall around reality and decides to punch through it. And somewhere in the middle of all that, Batman is still trying to solve a murder in Gotham before sunrise.